Alexa said there's a few people who already asked her about programs of work. So what happens when you accept admission here, we'll then send you your specific program of work after you do your waiver. So one of the first things you'll do is actually apply for waivers from the different faculty if there are classes that you would like to waive. And then we'll review those. And then after those get approved, we'll create your personal program of work, which will include the classes that you have to take and then how many electives you have to take. So does that answer that question? So it usually comes, when does it come, Alexa? I guess it depends on the faculty when they get around to doing it, but definitely sometime in the summer before you start.
Yeah, usually the first one comes, we try for June, and then sometimes we put on there that you're able to request to waive certain classes instead of telling you outright that you're waiving them. So
yeah, and Jeff has a good question there, which is, if you want to, maybe the current students, if you'd like to introduce yourselves, that'd be great, because I think they met most of us in the first session, but I think that'd be great.
You want to start, Maya?
Sure, I can go first. So I was trying to unmute myself.
Okay.
So my name is Amaya, and I am in my third year in the master's, the MArch-1 program. I do not have a background in architecture. I studied math and physics in my undergraduate and have some research experience doing that as work before coming to grad school. So as far as interests go, I'm one of the TAs that does the early level construction sequence. And I think that for me, like kind of, I don't know, materiality and thinking about the construction process and sort of how we can rethink it and maybe streamline things in regards to where we source our materials and how we use them with prefabrication and stuff like that. I would say that's a really big interest of mine. And then this semester, I'm also TAing site design, which is a big shift for me. It's a lot more theoretical, and somebody with a big research background, we do the grading projects and things like that, where you're adjusting the site to fit a building and other water flow requirements, things like that. But it's been really interesting TAing for David Heyman and getting into kind of a little more theoretical stuff that's sometimes out of my interest, or not out of my interest, but out of my comfort zone. And that's been really exciting for me. So yeah, that's me.
All right, great info from Maya. Hard to top that one. So I'm Diego. I'm a current MArch-1 student, actually in my third and last year. I do have a background in architecture from Roger Williams University in Rhode Island. Originally from Venezuela, so I'm an international student. I've been in the States now for about 8 years. My family lives in Texas, which is one of the many reasons UT was a great was very appealing as a program and as a school. I'm so like I said, currently in my last semester. For better or worse, have a really light credit load this semester. So I don't know if that's kind of been more conducive to going crazy in the current situation, but I'm focused on this an MDS, actually, Master's Design Studio, which I'm completing, which is kind of an independent 1 year or a year and a half rather is what has taken me independent study, and I'm culminating it with a kind of design studio that's self-proposed. Uli is actually my advisor, and yeah, it's been going really great. I'm focused on one of my biggest topical interests in grad school have been kind of mass timber construction. And that's through kind of some courses that I took, like both an internship I completed before grad school and courses with faculty like Uli teaches a timber technology seminar, which is a theory elective course, and just really, really great kind of course, the eye-opening in terms of all these different emerging technologies that are trying to respond more to like kind of what Amaya was talking about, how we're sourcing our materials and how we're kind of streamlining them to be more effective and more ecological. So a little bit about me.
So real quick, I'm seeing a question about how much of my math experience is carried over. So I would say that It's been like a little bit less than I expected. I think that, you know, there are the construction courses and things like that where it's very relevant and very immediately kind of applicable. I'd say for me, the interesting thing about being a very STEM person in coming to architecture school is kind of the different thought processes. And like I've taken a lot of inspiration from my math background and kind of, I don't know, some of the sort of structures I guess I've seen within that. And I would say that there's space to use it if you want it. Like I have taken some projects and really gone into the nitty gritty of like, if I'm capturing rainwater, calculating how that's used, sort of the square footage needed and sort of with the processes of treatment that I was using. Like, you know, I like if you want to really dive in and kind of use those strengths in your design and have it be a big motivator for your design, you can do that. But you can also not as well. But I've really enjoyed kind of bringing it in and having some, for me, having some sort of like examples that I can back up my designs with has been really helpful for me with the motivation of my designs.
Yeah, if I could just add to that, I think you know, math is becoming more and more an important part of architecture when we start getting involved with artificial intelligence, robotics. Some of the studios that are being taught now, like by, for example, Daniel Kohler and Rasa, are using simulation and physics. So you know, a very specific area of math. How do you demonstrate physical properties through math? But actually using that to script different parameters of a design project, for example. So it is becoming more and more relevant and hopefully more integrated into the advanced studios too.
I mean, that said, any skill set that you bring to the table will be really valuable in the profession. And I mean, Corey, you know, talked about the vertical studio format, and obviously all come in with diverse backgrounds. And it's really a great laboratory where you're not only being taught by the instructor, but you actually start teaching each other and sharing knowledge that you bring to the table. That, you know, I might bring math, Diego might bring his background in architecture, but, you know, the next person will bring, you know, knowledge from psychology, or biology. So I think everyone has something to contribute. So I don't think it has to be, you know, you'd have to be concerned that if you're not coming from a, you know, technical field, that you wouldn't have anything to build upon.
Yeah, if I add to that, so our goal for a constituency in our first year master program, our goal is to have 50% of people with like very little to no background in architecture, and then 50% of people that have a degree in architecture already, like a major in architecture. And with that idea in mind, where we have a lot of people with English literature backgrounds, sociology backgrounds, and really we're looking for that mixture. So we don't always hit 50-50, but that is kind of the idea and the intent, especially of the vertical format, like Uli mentioned. Someone asked about areas of Austin to recommend for an apartment. Austin is a really awesome city, really it is. And there are quite a few neighborhoods, each with their own kind of characters. So a lot of grad students live east of campus in an area called Chestnut, or even East Austin, which I think was recently in the New York Times as one of like the 10 most hot neighborhoods to live in. It feels a little bit, you know, like Brooklyn or something, a lot of good bars and restaurants. And it's close enough to bike to school. Also, all the public transportation is free for UT students. So any bus system, there's one Metro Rail, which you probably won't take because it really goes to Dell campus up north, but all of that's free for UT students. So people do use that quite a bit. A lot of people live north of campus in Hyde Park, which is a really beautiful area, old houses with lots of tree-lined streets. And a lot of students rent houses together as well and live like in a you know, 3-bedroom home. That's really common. The only place I might avoid as a graduate student is maybe West Campus, immediately west of campus. Mm-hmm. That's where most of the undergrads live, and that's the high rises and stuff. So I would maybe avoid that. But otherwise, South Congress that's where I would choose to live if I could. really good restaurants and shops. So
there's Riverside is kind of southeast, which has a whole new bunch of apartment complexes. Also, where I live in the kind of northwest part of town, there's an area called Far West, which it's interesting that a lot of Asian students actually end up living here. So we've got a good Asian grocery selection here, and there's also UT has some. There are shuttle. So not only is the public transportation free, there are also UT dedicated shuttle buses that are operated by Austrian Metro, and there's some express shuttles or park and ride shuttles that go to some of these areas and makes it really easy to commute. If you're concerned about your rent cost, and obviously the further you go out, the more affordable it's going to be, but the trade-off is obviously that you have a little bit of travel time coming into campus.
we're getting a lot of questions in the chat, so I might miss a few. I think it just keeps adding to them. So if we miss one, feel free to chime in or repeat your question if we do miss it. One thing I noticed is about the summer class. So with that summer class, there will be a component of physical modeling. One thing I'll do is send you a list of all of the materials you will need and links to order those on Amazon if you don't have an art store near you. But there'll also be a digital component. So I'll be teaching you Rhino, which is a 3D modeling software. I've created a series of tutorials online. So it'll be kind of a mix of analog, digital. And really the goal of that is to explore abstraction in space and to kind of break any preconceptions you have of architecture. But also there'll be readings. So we'll introduce contemporary thoughts of architecture, some seminal works in architecture, and we'll discuss those as well. So it's really kind of a broad exposure to the discipline and really just an introduction. And then there's also a drawing class taught by, I think John Blood is teaching that, Uli?
Yes, John Blood is teaching the drawing component.
John Blood is a local architect, but he also is an amazing drawer by hand. He does a lot of the conceptual artwork for movies that are filmed in Austin, but also TV shows. So he does all the conceptual artwork for Walking Dead, for example. And he is going to teach you how to do architectural drawing. So that's a really exciting other component of the class. That's architectural drawing, which will also be in the summer.
There's a question by Joel here. He's wondering how UT Austin studios integrate the abstract and theoretical parts of architecture within a real world context, and to what extent does studio coursework focus on real world problems and research? That's really varied. I mean, we obviously have studios typically at the advanced studio level that might be, for instance, a public interest design studio where you're actually designing and building projects for, usually it's a nonprofit somewhere. So that would probably be as real as it gets, Corey, right?
Yeah.
And then, there's a whole range, both in vertical studio and in advanced studio in terms of a whole range of, there can be very abstract studio offerings where it's really a lot about theory and kind of the foundation of that for your architectural education. And then there's studios that are more pragmatic, where it's really about resolving material and technology issues and making a building work with kind of all the complex systems that come with it.
Someone asked about Casper, about tech companies in Austin. How is that changing things? So if you look on the virtual home site, we just added it this morning. So if you looked at it before, you didn't see this, but we hosted a conference called Acadia, which is the Association for Computer-Aided Design and Architecture. It's like the premier technology and architecture conference in the world. And part of the reason for doing that was because of all the tech firms that are starting to either have second offices in Austin or even startups that are emerging here locally in Austin. And they're really becoming like a significant player in that industry, in that area. And so with that conference, we were able to connect to a bunch of these, like Dell obviously is the big one. Half the school is called Dell. So they're a big donor. They donate a lot of funding for grants and different opportunities. But also like Magic Leap would be a great example. Magic Leap is a augmented reality, augmented reality goggle. And so augmented reality is different from virtual reality, because in augmented reality, you see the environment you're in and it creates kind of holographs within that environment. And so people are using that now for construction, where you can embed a three-dimensional model in this lens and in real time see what you need to build in front of you. So if you need to put together two 2x4s, it'll show you the exact configuration and it'll tell you if it's correct or not. So that company, Magically, that's working on that is locally based. Their research team is here in Austin. And so there's like 5 or 6 of us on the faculty that are totally engaged with them in developing actually new tools for that software, for those lenses. So there's just examples like that. And there's more, like KUKA has a branch here. So we're connected with their robotics research, and there's more examples, but that's just 2.
There's a question about access to studios. Yes, as a student, you have access to studios 24/7. You get your UTID kind of functions as a swipe card. You can access your studio space at all times of the day. Woodshop and computer labs have limited opening hours, but I think the computer lab probably open at like 8 a.m. and they're open till 10 or something. Diego, Amaya, is that about right?
Yeah, those times sounds about right. 8 in the morning or to about 10 at night usually.
There was another question for Diego and Amaya that I want to reiterate. Did y'all see this one? If you could go back a few months before your first semester, what would you be doing to prepare for what's to come? I want to hear the answer to that.
Amaya, do you want to start that one? I was sort of looking up some links to answer a question, but
Yeah.
I'm happy to answer in a second.
So I had a pretty unique situation where coming in, even though I didn't have a background in architecture, I had already used Rhino, the 3D modeling software, and the Adobe Creative Cloud suite. So like Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator, things like that. And so I felt like coming in my first semester, I was able to really hit the ground running in a way that some of my fellow students weren't able to. So this is probably less relevant for those of you who have an undergraduate degree in architecture, but for any of you who don't, I definitely think if you can take a little bit of time, like, we do try to introduce you to them in the early stages, but there are a lot of things that are just sort of, you got to find the time to practice it and to get good at it. And I thought that was a really big benefit for me. As far as like theory and history, I really intentionally decided to go in as a very blank slate. So maybe other people had different experiences than I did on that one, but I felt like for me having the programs a little bit under my belt, and especially something like Grasshopper, if you're interested in parametric design, that's something that you can definitely find at this school, but you're not necessarily going to get in every single studio. So if that's something you're interested in, like just start playing around with it, I would say.
Also keep in mind that when Amaya started her program, we did not have an introductory course in the summer. So a lot of that, that skill set and the anxiety of knowing those pieces of software will be kind of taken away by that introductory course that Corey is going to teach.
And there was a question from Rachel about how do we facilitate the idea of our role in public space? And so one thing that maybe we didn't stress enough, but there is quite a bit of public interest design components to the school. We have a lot of research that's focused on that, and also studios that specifically engage that. So every year, for example, Coleman Coker is one of the faculty members who works with local communities around the Gulf Coast and helps design and build, the students actually design and build some kind of project for that community. And it involves a lot of working with local politicians, but also community members and absorbing those ideas into the project. And so if you go on the website, you can find some of those examples, especially in the Flickr site. And so that's one way, but also, like Michelle mentioned, we're very involved with the city here locally in Austin. And so there's a lot of research that's happening with the school, with the city officials that students are involved in. And a lot of these projects include GRA positions. Those are the research assistants. And so the students are actively involved in that research and actually part of that team. So if any publications come out of that, they'd be mentioned, of course, in the publication. And so there is quite a bit of exposure to these different areas. And that's one thing, it's really hard. Like our school it's so diverse in the different offerings. Like, yes, there's digital fabrication, there's sustainable design, there's Latin American studies, there's design build. There's so many different features. It's hard to kind of convey all of that in one info session, but it really is, like, more than any other school I've taught at, a really diverse set of options for you. So if you're really interested in that particular trajectory, there'll be plenty of classes that focus on that.
To add to a little bit to what Corey just said, and Amaya, I just as a student, the question was regarding, like, before starting, what advice I would give. Precisely, like, kind of doing some research on the faculty at the UTSOA and what their interests are, I think is a huge thing, because they can really start to realize all the options you have for kind of electives and topically specific things that you want to pursue. And so the early on, you know that, the better, because you're really kind of maximizing the time that you're here, and that you can kind of take advantage of really specific things that the program has. So I personally would say I didn't do a lot of research before starting on those kind of specific things, but you obviously come across them as you start. But I think just like taking a look at that, and obviously the open house today is a good opportunity for that, but perhaps beyond that, to see how if you want to line up your kind of schedule and your trajectory in a specific way, starting to think about that early on, I think it's a good thing.
Great.
Corey, kind of one question that popped up here is like, what computers, well, I guess this was for the students, but what computers are best, that you now in your kind of third years? Do we still have a computer recommendation? Is that something that that's going to be shared with the students coming in for the introductory course?
Yeah, there is one. There's one online. Everyone is required to have a computer. That's part of the kind of school policy, a laptop computer. And we have different recommended models online. If you have a particular computer, we do have an IT, like the head of IT here named Pankaj, and he can answer any questions you have about whether your computer is capable of running the software, or you can email me and I can also let you know. But I would recommend getting a pretty robust computer at the beginning of your studies that will carry you through the entire 3 years. The programs totally differ year by year. I mean, the basic ones are like Revit, for example, or Rhino with Grasshopper. Of course, all of the photo editing tools like Photoshop and Illustrator. But then some studios have very particular software that their studios focused on. So I'd mentioned Daniel Kohler earlier. They're working on Unity, which is a gaming engine, and it's used for VR and AR simulation. So there's coding and scripting and Python, C#. So you don't have to get that deep into computation if you don't want to. The basic, depending on your trajectory through the program, would be Rhino, Revit, these kind of programs. And then you have the option, if you want to focus deeper into some of this stuff, to go a different route. We also do other 3D modeling softwares like Maya and 3ds Max and stuff. But these always change. One nice thing I'll add real quick is UT offers for free access to lynda.com. And lynda.com is a free for us online series of tutorials on pretty much any software you would need. So it's a really good resource just for learning something new if you feel like it.
Yeah, I think one of the points that was brought up here on the chat was Mac versus PC. I myself am a Mac person, but there are certain limitations with some of the software. Rhino has a better version for Mac, but Revit is it's difficult to run smoothly on a Mac, which eventually you're not going to need that probably in your first year if you're coming in without a background, or even your second year. But eventually you're gonna need Revit or another piece of software that might not run very well on a Mac.
I would get a PC yeah, that's what I'd recommend. Yeah, mainly because if you run any of these other programs on a Mac, you would have to boot camp it anyway. Mm-hmm. So you might as well get a Windows machine. They're cheaper too.
Seeing a really interesting question here from Steven about, I'll just read the question. Do you believe it's crucial to belong to an urban environment to study architecture? How does being in Austin inform your studios? To Diego and Amaya, do you feel it influences your work in any way? I think that's a really great question. I think the first thing I think of is just that where I'm from a really kind of small town in Venezuela that isn't particularly urban. And I think that was a big part of my upbringing, and in no way brings any kind of disadvantage to designing and thinking of architecture. I think architecture, definitely tends to be more prolific in urban environments, but I think there's definitely a wide array of kind of design problems that can make you a good designer that aren't necessarily urban based. And yeah, I mean, studying in Austin, I think, a lot of studios tend to try to engage the Texas locale with their prompts, which I think is really unique. Not necessarily all studios around schools do that. And as much as you have kind of study or studios where you do international travel, there's also quite a few that focus on kind of regional Texas areas and thinking about that ecologically and urbanistically as well. So definitely, there's studios that are based in Austin where you kind of engage with a site. There's nothing quite like designing around a site that you can actually go visit and live around. So there's definitely a lot of those opportunities in UT studios.
I'd like to add to that from a perspective of having been a student once, and then also, I mean, think about we're in Austin, but then we have 3 other major cities that are within 3 hours drive. We have Dallas, we have Houston, we have San Antonio, and really the sustainability question is going to really be resolved in increasing density and creating healthy living spaces in urban areas. I mean, my training was partially completed in Germany, where I'm from, but then, which was in an very urban setting. But then also, I don't know if anyone is, I'm sure you're looking at other schools. I went to the University of Oregon as an exchange student initially. I was on the Eugene campus, which is, it's a beautiful campus, and it's kind of a small hippie town. It's a great environment to go to school, but I felt like a lot of my teachers, there was kind of just due to the lack of kind of architecture in town, and then just in the possibility for faculty to do architecture or be practicing architects on the side. I felt like they were somewhat disconnected from the discipline. There was obviously a lot of talk about theory, but we obviously have that here too. I mean, Portland is 100 miles away, which doesn't seem that far, but it's still relatively far, and it's just kind of limited exposure to not just good projects to look at, but also to people to talk to that are engaged in the built environment in an urban setting.
I'll just jump on one of these questions here about recruitment and financial aid. So I don't think the financial aid offers have gone out yet. Is that true, Robin? Do we know, or Alexa?
Well, the last that we have heard, it doesn't seem like they've gone out yet, but we've received, some students have heard back from the financial aid office that they will get it done before April 15th. So hopefully sooner rather than later.
Great. Yeah, so they're, they're struggling, of course, with the current issues. So they're a little later than normal. The one thing I'd say, so April 15th is a university-wide, like world, or I guess United States-wide agreement that no school would require you to make a decision before April 15th. And by the way, if they do, just let me know, because that's not allowed. So you have until April 15th to make a decision on your acceptance. And so please do wait. If you haven't heard from financial aid yet, they will get back to you soon, and they're working on it. Financial aid is separate from recruitment. So recruitment is a kind of rolling thing. We've offered some recruitment already. As people decline their offers, we're able to re-offer those before April 15th. So just as a courtesy, it's always nice, no matter where you've applied, to decline an offer if you're for sure not going to accept it, just because that releases those funds for other students. The one thing I will say, UT is very supportive of continuing students, even more supportive of continuing students than students enrolling for the first semester. And so our different ways of funding students that are continuing here are really great, like the continuing fellowships. We have travel funding, we have TA ships, we have GRA ships. And so if there's a point where you are in the program and you really, to continue, you need to get some kind of funding, you can talk to us and we'll figure out what the best way to approach that is and how you can, what you can apply for, and your chances of getting these things are very good. So I just want to point that out, like continuing funding here is very good, even better than our first time offering. Mm-hmm. And that's just a UT system.
And kind of that ties it. There was a question about travel studios. I mean, we obviously have We have studios that are dedicated travel studios, or where you actually spend the entire semester abroad, the Euro program, for example, in the fall. That's obviously one option. And there's typically an application process, but I have never heard of anyone who wanted to participate in that not to be able to go. And then our advanced studios, I mean, now it's really that most advanced studios offer a travel component. That doesn't mean it takes you off campus for the entire semester, but you might be going somewhere for a week or 10 days. In the spring, it usually ties in nicely with, spring break. You might be able to extend your travel to wherever you're going. And so we've had a group go to Japan this semester. I don't know if we had Iceland this semester, Ecuador, Brazil. I mean, they're traveling all over the world. We also have good internal travel funding. So those travel studios are usually heavily subsidized. There's usually some out-of-pocket cost for a student, but obviously we try to keep that to a minimum in terms of, planning of where we stay and how we travel. And that cost might vary depending on where you're going. Obviously, the further away you go, the more expensive it's going to be. Or, if you're going to Japan, there's just a larger out-of-pocket cost than going to Ecuador, obviously.
I just saw a note from Dylan there. Yeah, if you have a good computer, it'll be fine. If it's a Mac, you just would need boot camp for some of the software. If you're going to buy a new one, I would recommend a PC, but if you already have a good one, it's a Mac, that's fine.
I mean, there's also if you have a Mac and you need some software that maybe runs better on a PC, you can probably also do with lab computers for a little while, probably not forever, right? But you can also use the lab computers for some of those tests as well.
One thing I forgot to mention, we do have like a pretty robust render farm. And so Rob Stepnowski, who's a research associate here and a senior lecturer, has created a whole render farm of different machines. And we're working on actually virtualizing a lot of the software, but you can already use it for rendering animations or any kind of complex tasks you needed to do. And we're looking at the option of also running Grasshopper and other programs on the render farm virtually through your laptop, which would mean the requirements of your computer could be much less. We haven't done it yet, but I expect within the next 2 years, we'll probably move to that kind of possibility.
So I'm seeing a question here from Casper that says, if you could revisit having to decide between schools again, which considerations would you weigh as more important now than you did before? And I think that that's especially really relevant right now. I actually had this conversation with my housemate last night. I was looking at an Ivy League school, and it would have ended up costing me probably upwards of $200,000 in student loan debt. And like, I know money is always weird to talk about, but I would say at UT I've had just such a huge amount of support from the school, and it's generally a really fairly affordable as far as higher education goes program. And I've been able to have TA positions every semester, and that's been really huge for me. So being on the verge of graduation during like a economic downturn and having had a lot more financial support from the school that I went to, I think that that's just so much huger than I even thought it was when going in. And I don't think that necessarily should be the only decision when you're picking schools, but having the opportunity to TA is, I really do think, huge. It gives you in-state tuition if you're out of state. You get health insurance and you get a tuition reduction benefit. And it's been a really fantastic way for me to interact with undergraduates who I might not otherwise meet. I've also been a TA for grad students. And so getting to know the students as they're coming into the program and really expanding my base of who I talk to and who I go, visit in studio and do desk crits with and things like that. I think that that's been a really fantastic experience for me in grad school.
I'll just expand a little bit on what Amaya said. So our TA positions, we actually have quite a few, and there's a big range of positions. So you might TA for the materials lab and help run workshops, or manage the desk there, or material library, or the robotics often have TAs. So if you want to really invest your time in robotics, you can TA for that. We have class TAs, so a lot of TAs for like Larry Speck's class, for example, where you grade papers and run discussion sessions. Or I have TAs for visual communication that help students learn software. So the TA positions are really, they run the board of different opportunities and different types. And so if you're interested in a TA position during your fall semester, you would apply for it. You can't be one your first semester, so it'd be in your second semester or your second year even. It's up to you, but you'd apply for the ones and you'd rank which ones you wanted to do from first to third. And then the faculty kind of review the different applications and then assign TAs. So in my experience, like if you want a TA position and you're flexible with which class you want a TA for, you most likely will get a TA. Like I would even say 99%.
Robin, can we talk about the benefits for being a TA? There was a question about the breakdown of the tuition reduction benefit. So I guess, first of all, you get to pay in-state tuition. Second, you get health insurance. You get the same health insurance that the staff and faculty have, which is pretty decent. Third, you get the tuition reduction benefit, which I think now pretty much covers the remainder of your in-state tuition. And then you still get the, what's it called, the stipend?
Mm-hmm.
Which equals to about, Robin, you're muted.
Yeah,
the stipend is what, about $1,000 a month for the 4 months of the semester? Is that about right?
yeah, I can look up the exact number.
So that's money you can put towards your rent and living expenses. So it's funny because we have adjunct faculty that we hire and they look at what the TAs get and it's like, man, those TAs are getting better deals. They're getting paid more than what we are as adjunct faculty, which is great for you guys, but frustrating for the adjunct faculty.
And I just to say, I think I did have to pay like $1,000 or $1,200 in tuition this semester or something for like 15 credits. So it covers almost all of the remaining tuition, but there is like a minor amount that you still have to pay. But having a semester for $1,200 is not bad, especially when I'm getting paid too.
Yeah, the university is talking about what the amount will be next year though, so that's still TBD. So it might be a little bit left or to cover, or there might be none to cover.
And I just want to answer Dylan's question about the health insurance. So when you're a TA, your health insurance is paid for, just like any other university employee. If you have dependents, you can add them to the plan, but there's obviously costs involved. But I know like a spouse, I mean, I've looked at it in a while, but a spouse for a month, it's probably $245. Yeah, it's $250 a month for a spouse, and then it would be less for a child, obviously. So it's very, very reasonable. And then when you're a TA, Robin, help me with that. When you're a TA, it allows you to, if you're a TA in a regular long semester or in the spring, if you're a regular TA in the spring, it allows you to, you're eligible to purchase health insurance over the summer as well, right?
Yeah, that whole process is continually evolving as well.
Okay.
But I just put a link to the TA page in the chat that we will keep updated as we have information.
There's a few comments about or questions about the current crisis and whether or not we'll have classes online in the fall. And I think, as Michelle mentioned, we're directly in touch with the people making nationwide decisions. And so right now, the conversation is that we will be having classes in the fall. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't. The summer, we're putting online just out of an abundance of caution. If, however, the situation obviously is developing, so nobody knows what's going to happen. But if there was a reason to move them online, Michelle, we're already having conversations about what that would be, and so we'll be prepared for that. But I don't know if we have specific ideas about like these TA positions. I'm sure we'll have things like that, and of course we'll try to make it as seamless as possible. I really hope we don't get there. If we get there, everyone else in the country would also be there as well in the world. So
this is not going to be a sole decision by our campus. I mean, we're gonna be open in the fall. We just don't know which way classes are going to be conducted. I mean, there was a question about deferment. Robin, do you want to speak to deferment?
Corey, correct me if I'm wrong, but those requests are reviewed on a case-by-case basis. So the graduate school, though, prefers that we not have students defer for a semester for lots of logistical reasons, but it would be up to the program to make a decision about deferring for a year.
Yeah, there's not an actual deferment process or policy. So what happens is if we talk to you individually and you're interested in deferring, we would talk about it. And then what you would do is reapply the following year. And then we'd have some kind of email trail that said we agreed to accept you the following year, but you would still apply. And then we would reaccept you. We'd prefer not to do that. Usually we do it with extenuating circumstances or some kind of emergency or family issue. So that's usually our policy. But if you have questions about it, let's talk. We can talk individually.
And deferring for one semester is potentially a no-go because, especially if you're coming in without a background.
Yeah, it's too hard. You get out of sequence.
Yeah. There was a question if you can reduce the 3-year program if you waive classes or take summer classes. Program has changed a little bit since I was graduate advisor. I'm not sure about the waiving of classes, but definitely taking summer classes. We usually offer, in the summer, we try to offer a vertical studio. We also try to offer 2 advanced studios. The number of studios is really what determines how long you're going to be here, right? So whether it's 4 semesters or 6 semesters. But the summer we do offer studios, and we also offer a really limited number of electives. You're not going to be able to fulfill any required support courses. Sorry, I'm saying that wrong, but you know what I'm trying to say here. We don't offer any required support courses that would satisfy, any of your degree requirements, like a construction class or an environmental controls class or history class. But we usually have a number of electives that we offer as well as studio.
And one thing I'd add, I think someone emailed me this a few days ago, but if you're in the advanced standing, the 2-year program, but there's a class that's part of the core 3-year program that you want to take, like let's say you want to take early history, which is not part of the 2-year program, you are still allowed to take that class and it just counts as an open elective. So even classes that are core classes can be counted as open electives.
And so I took the Coleman Coker Design Build Studio this summer, and I thought that was a really fantastic way to kind of give myself some more flexibility in the program. Like I ended up taking a semester off from studio right after that because doing it over the summer, you're able to really focus on it. And like, since I wasn't taking the construction classes or the environmental controls classes, I was just doing that and working part-time. And, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but I think that's a really fantastic experience that some schools do, but definitely not all are going to offer. And like, I learned how to weld and actually constructed something, which was really cool, kind of bringing it out into reality in addition to the, public interest design side of it, of getting to work with a stakeholder and getting to actually like consult with somebody on the design side as well, of their needs and their expectations and dealing within a budget and things like that. So if anybody's considering that, I highly, highly recommend it as an experience. And I thought the summer was the perfect time to do it. It's really hot down in Galveston area, but it's worth it.
Yeah. I feel like we haven't met any of you. So if any of you want to say something or introduce yourselves, go for it. I mean, one of the great things about Open House is that everyone meets each other and people kind of talk about the other, things the other programs they've been accepted to, and then what they found in Austin. And so it's really nice for people to meet each other. And I think it's pretty unfortunate in this kind of virtual way that you're not doing that. So feel free to chime in if you'd like to and introduce yourself.
Do we want to have people raise their hands, or do you want them to just go for it?
How about raise your hand?
Okay. Do y'all know how to raise? Do you know how to raise hands?
Your virtual hand?
Participant. If you go down to the participants, then there's a way you can raise your hand to let us know. Oh yeah,
Diego's raising it.
I was just exemplifying the concept.
Well, I think I'm the only one who sees. Right. So we have a few people here. Rachel, do you want to?
Yeah, I guess I'll go first. My name is Rachel Sasan. I'm a current student at Texas A&M University. I see a few of my fellow students on this chat. But I'm really interested in designing sustainable communities for third world countries. So that's generally like the track that I want to go. And I'm really interested in how UT can facilitate that passion of mine. And I talked a little bit to different professors about which school would be the best fit. For me, I applied to places like Cornell and Pratt and SCAD and got into those. But ultimately, I tell a lot of people it's not about where you go, it's about what you do with your degree that you get. So that's generally why I like UT so much. And I think that this is a really, really great program. And just to commend you guys, I had a lot of questions written down and y'all answered every single one of them. So thank y'all for that. So nice to meet you guys.
Thank you, Rachel.
Nice to meet
I'm
you.
going to just go down the list here. Cameron, do you want to? You had your hand up.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm Cameron. I actually live like half a mile from UT. I can see the tower and stuff. I've enrolled, so I'm very excited to be coming, and I don't know exactly what I'm gonna do in school, but explore and hopefully run into something interesting. This is my metal cactus that I have in my apartment. That's all. I'm very excited.
What's your background, Cameron?
Okay. I studied anthropology in college. I graduated 2 years ago. Since
from UT or
no, from Brown.
okay. Yeah.
But I grew up.
We've
in
had
Austin.
a lot of people from Brown come through. We like students from Brown.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah.
The last 2 years, I worked as a reading teacher at an elementary school. I taught high school English at my old high school for like a semester, and then I've been working at a restaurant called Olame in the kitchen. But I got laid off because of coronavirus. But that's okay. Excited to start school soon.
Good.
Is that yes?
That's great. That's great. Thank you, Cameron.
What Corey say just now?
Olame is delicious.
Yeah, I make the biscuits. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love the biscuits.
I make those. Okay.
Okay. Well, let's move on to the next biscuit maker here. Dylan, do you want to say something? First, Dylan. There.
Yeah. Hey. My name's Dylan Treelevin. I'm also a former Brown student, actually, strangely enough. And I have been out of school for quite a while now, like 8 years, and I've been primarily working as a carpenter during that time. So I just wanted a career change, wanted to try and get more into the design side of things. So I applied to, I try to be pretty strategic about the schools I applied to. I only applied to state schools in fairly large cities because I'm married and have a child, and I wanted to try and find a place where my spouse could find a good job and find a school that was pretty affordable. And so I'm just trying to weigh all of the financial concerns, basically, with regard to making my choices. I mean, aside from the the great things that each of the schools I applied to offer, for me, the financial portion of it is a big factor.
Dylan, just to let you know, our woodshop also has TA positions, so we have
Awesome.
a lot of carpenters come through there and be TAs. I think they usually have 2 a semester or something. So, thank you, Dylan.
Any questions about? I don't know how old your child is, but I have a 1-year-old. So if you have any questions about that in Austin, let me know.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I'll get in touch with you about that. He's 6 months. So.
Oh, great. Well,
Yeah.
you're still awake.
We have Garrett. Garrett.
Hey everyone. So I did my undergrad at UT. So I'm a Texas X, Hook 'em Horns. I did that in international political economy. A couple years ago, I started the grad program in architecture at Texas A&M, and really enjoyed that. I did not finish because I got deployed to Poland with the Army, and I just moved back to Austin in May and wanted to get back in and finish up my studies in architecture. I currently work for FGM Architects here in Austin, and we just do commercial architecture and education and faith-based projects. But anyways, really looking forward to getting back in the game and finishing everything up. So
Great, thank you, Hayden. Sorry, that was Garrett. I'm sorry, Hayden. Hayden, you're next.
Hey everyone, I'm Hayden Hood. I currently go to Texas A&M University, and I am finishing an undergraduate degree in environmental design, which is essentially a architecture degree. I have applied to a various amount of art schools as well as the University of Texas because I really enjoyed the concept of like how we create emotional spaces based on the built environment and what that looks like. And so UT really inspired me by seeing some of the projects and how open you guys have been to showing off graduate student work. That's impressive stuff. So that's always exciting. And I actually grew up around Austin, so I really love the area. I enjoy things like ACL and going downtown. There's plenty to do and plenty to see. So it's a great place.
Thank you, Hayden. Jessica? Where's Jessica?
Hi, I'm right here. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I'm actually from North Carolina, the very western edge of North Carolina called Boone. That's where Appalachian State University is. So I'm finishing up there, obviously online. But I'm doing a building science degree, so I get experience with construction, building science. I also take some architecture studios to do design work there. But I'd say through this kind of interdisciplinary program, I've gotten to, I went to go work for RDH Building Science in Portland, Oregon. I think it's like Austin's sister city, so I know they're similar in that aspect. But it was really cool working for a building science company because I learned a lot about designing for the local climate, connections, sealing off the envelope. So I took a big interest in that. So back at Appalachian State, that's what I've kind of focused my undergrad on, and but also applying that to architectural design. So I'd say that's one of my big interests. But yeah, I've only visited Austin one time, and that was back when I was in middle school. But I only have positive memories, so I would love to get the chance to move there, and think it's a really cool city. So.
Yeah. Thank you, Jessica. Tyler? Tyler? No? We'll move on to Bobby for now.
Hi, yeah, I'm Bobby Nolan. I'm also a Texas A&M graduate. I graduated back in May 2017, actually, and I've been working with HH Architects up in Dallas for the last 3 years now. And I'd actually applied for UT back when I was finishing my last spring semester at A&M, but I ended up just deciding to go the office work firm route, just kind of get my hands on detailing methods and construction and just kind of getting the functionality of a firm, the way they go through their workflow of projects and phases and different things, just kind of getting an education through that in addition to just, you know, a job post-college. But yeah, I'm also, you know, a married guy coming into school. We've been married for just a year this week, actually. And yeah, so we're really excited to come down and be in Austin. Hopefully I I think I'm gonna enroll probably today. I'm gonna hit the accept thing today probably. Just it's been really encouraging to be at this open house already, even if it's virtual. Just getting all the input from y'all as faculty, just about even the community building and public space sort of focus that the dean had mentioned. And that's sort of the thing that really wants me to pursue architecture. It's just the power that it has to build community well, and just how important that is, not just for, the community itself, but even just for mental health and physical health and all those things. The more people that are able to engage with the community through the built environment, the better. Community is one of the most powerful forces for, combating depression, anxiety, and all that. So anyway, yeah, it's been encouraging to get beyond this virtual open house already.
Thank you, Bobby. Noah, do you want to?
Yeah, I can definitely go next. So I'm Noah. I'm a student right now at UT Austin. I'm getting my degree in math. Hopefully, if I graduate, we'll see how the semester goes. I also have a minor in architecture studies, and then I'm doing the BDP for environment and sustainability. So my interest kind of lies in sustainability, architecture, and then also integrating urban design into that. So I kind of want to take classes that combine all those together. I also have like a pretty international background. I lived in Amsterdam as a kid, and then Austin, Cedar Park area for like the last 12 years. And it's really cool to hear about you guys talking about all the places we can go, because I've been to a lot of those places already. And it's cool to see how different architecture can be from every locale. So.
Thank you, Noah. Tyler? I don't know. Tried him earlier. Fernando? Fernando?
Hello,
Yeah.
everyone. This is Fernando. I graduated from Texas A&M in 2019. I took a year off and I've been working at Corrigan for the past year. I've always been a fan of UT, that's why I applied, but this is actually the only Southern school. The other ones are actually up north, Michigan, Cornell, Penn, and Pratt. But this has been probably the best virtual open house that I've had. So it's been very helpful. All the answers have been, all the questions have been answered, and it's probably like my top choice at the moment. So it's been good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Fernando. So I think Tyler, he took his hand down. Tyler, did you want to say something? We can't hear him. So, okay, his microphone isn't working. So let's move. Maybe you can get that to work, Tyler. We'll move on to Aiden for now. Aiden? How about Dominic?
Hi guys, my name is Dominic. I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada. Grew up here. I got my undergraduate degree here at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas in architecture. I've been working for the past year at a firm here in town, and decided it was time before I got too comfortable to jump back into school and applied to a variety of schools. I'm narrowing the list, but I'm looking forward to hopefully deciding in the next week or so where I want to go. But so far, I think probably my top choice is Austin. But yeah, looking forward to maybe joining the studios next year.
Thank you, Dominic. And I think Aiden had microphone issues too and got that fixed.
Yeah, is that working now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. My name's Aiden. I'm sitting in a basement in South Philadelphia, and I would like to echo what some of these others have been saying about this being a really excellent open house. I think I learned a lot, and yeah, I would also like to commiserate with everyone else who's still narrowing their list and struggling with that decision. I think I've got it down to about 4. Austin's making a strong case. And my background is not in architecture. It's in creative writing, carpentry, and clothing design. So this is a little bit of a career shift for me, but I'm excited to finally be on the path and to be 2 weeks in the future and have already figured out the decision. So thanks a lot for the open house. It was good to meet everybody.
Thank you, Aiden.
I'll
Bo.
just add real quick.
Oh, sorry.
One of the workshops that we had this last fall was on digital tailoring. And so we had a fashion designer and an architect come together and design. We had Nike come in, so 5 people from Nike who designed their really cool shoes. They all came together and taught a workshop to students. It was a really fun time.
Okay. Thanks, Corey. Bo, did you?
Yeah, so hey everybody, my name is Bo. I'm from South Texas originally, and I moved to Austin, I think in 2006. Got my undergraduate here at UT in philosophy and graduated 09. And yeah, kind of went out into the working world and didn't really find anything that fit very well. So I kind of ended up getting into woodworking as a hobby, and that grew fairly naturally for me into a kind of the passion for design that I am hoping to nourish at UT. Like Cameron, I have already hitched my horse to this wagon, and been looking forward to seeing all of you guys who do the same thing in the fall.
Thank you. Thank you, Aiden. Sorry, Bo. Alicia, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, my name's Alicia. I just finished my undergrad in architecture at MIT. I actually have minors in computer science and material science, so I'm really interested in building technologies, material economies, using computation to resolve a lot of these issues. I'm running away from the snow, so I only applied to schools south of Virginia. I'm from Cleveland originally, and I'm done. So I was looking at Rice, Clemson, Tulane, but I just committed to UT. It's really the place for my specific research interests, I think. And I appreciate how many options there are in school. So I'm excited to see everyone in the fall.
Great, thank you, Alicia. Karim, can you hear us?
Yes. Hi, my name is Karim Al-Kafraoui. I've been practicing architecture now for about 15 years. And I have a dual nationality background from the UK and Egypt. And I've spent a significant amount of time since maybe for the last 10 years. Decided that I needed to focus more on trying to integrate environmental design, energy efficiency into a practice back in Egypt. Which, because it's something that's not been very active, other beyond dealing with like earth construction and so forth. So I invested in that by combining with a solar company, and we co-founded a company together of solar energy, environmental design, energy efficiency, and we basically have been working on that now for about 9 years. And we've been pretty successful in being able to integrate these fields and these multidisciplinary fields, and to be able to make something out of it in a commercially viable way, which was really what our focus. But I'm wanting to extend my knowledge, and I feel like that UT Austin basically has a lot of the amazing labs programs that I think that would help facilitate that. Because I see some of the challenges after all these years of practice. I see a lot of the challenges of practice in being able to try to do something new and try to do something interesting in a market that might be resistant to it or not familiar with it. But I feel that there are certain shortcomings I have that I need to expand on. And I really do feel that UT Austin, along with other programs like RISE and so forth, have some really great programs that could be fantastic for this. And I'm looking forward to hopefully being part of your program.
Great. Thank you, Karim. Nikki, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Nikki. I'm from New York. I'm a senior at Vanderbilt. And I sort of got into architecture last summer when I did an intro to architecture program, the design discovery one through Harvard, and I really loved it and applied. So yeah, I mean, I loved UT when I visited. It's definitely my top choice right now. this has been very helpful, and I'm looking forward to meeting everyone in person.
Great, thank you, Nikki. Bobby, are you here? Oh, Bobby, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just had a quick question, actually.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I know we're maybe introducing people, but I know Corey mentioned about some of the workshops and things that happen at that West Mall building. So how often do those kinds of things happen, and what kind of topics do they cover sometimes?
Yeah, so they kind of happen on an ad hoc basis. I mean, sometimes we have a symposium or like an event like Acadia that brings in like 6 to 7 workshops, but we also have, and this is something that we're actually doing more and more of, we have a lot of funding for visiting faculty. And that doesn't mean just visiting faculty that teach a studio, it's for visiting people to come in for a week or two and actually teach a workshop. So for example, next semester, Clay Odom, who's one of the professors here, is bringing Morphosis architects, 2 people from their office, to teach a workshop for his studio. So it is something that happens more ad hoc, but on a regular basis. And then also, like, we're very open. So if you have something you're really interested in exploring, and there's enough students that also want to explore that topic, you can get together and form a group, and then we'll look for, okay, let's get an instructor out and let's fly them out here and do it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Corey, and thanks, Bobby, for the question. Adriana, sorry, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. Hello, everyone. My name is Adriana Dunlap. I am currently in my final semester at the University of Florida, where I've been studying architecture for the past 4 years. I kind of got into it because my grandpa was an artist at one point and my dad was an architect, and I just ended up really falling in love with architecture, and I'm kind of experiencing a lot of decisions to make right now, as I hear a lot of you are, but this information session has been super helpful, and I am excited to making more decisions within the upcoming week about my future.
Great.
Thank you, and we get a lot of applicants in Florida, and we like them too. So. Claire, are you here?
Hi everyone, my name is Claire. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts, and graduated from Vanderbilt a couple years ago, where I studied economics and math. After graduating, I worked in finance for a couple years, but realized that wasn't quite for me, and really became interested in architecture and the role of the built environment in societal change. And I'm really attracted to UT's emphasis on civic engagement and how they embody that throughout their program. So I would be excited to see everyone here next fall.
Great.
Thank you, Claire. And there's Joel has his hand up. Joel, are you here?
Hi, I'm Joel. I'm from Lexington, Kentucky, and I graduated from the University of Kentucky December 2018, and I've been working at CGL companies. So they're a justice design firm in Kentucky. Most of our work is, I guess, around the globe. We don't have any projects in Kentucky. If you're familiar with the Travis County Courthouse that's coming up, that's a project that I worked on with CGL. But yeah, right now I'm deciding between UT Austin and UVA. I was accepted at UPenn, but sort of as Amaya was saying, maybe $150,000 in debt is not a path that I want to pursue. So what excites me about UT is I think their emphasis on sustainable design and their materials lab. But yeah, nice to meet you all.
Thank you, Joel. Silvana?
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, hi. My name is Silvana. I am also from Venezuela, like Diego. I graduated from UT last May, and I studied urban studies and sustainability studies. I actually wanted to do architecture for my undergrad. I started out in engineering, wanted to switch. I wasn't able to because they wanted to do 5 years, and I already had 2 years down. I didn't want to do 7 years of undergrad. Didn't see it as a choice. So I did liberal arts. I really liked it. I was really excited about sustainable design and sustainable development, especially in underrepresented areas in the US. and Latin America. So that is a reason I really like UT. I really like their certificates for sustainable design and Latin America architecture. So hopefully I can do both. Right now I'm still undecided on where I want to go. I heard a lot of people already deciding, but still not sure. Obviously UT would be the best option money-wise. Also, it is an amazing program. Like a lot of others said, the virtual open house is really great. Answered a lot of questions. But yeah, I'm really excited. Hopefully I'll get to decide soon. And yeah.
Thank you, Silvana. Alex, are you here? You've got your hand up?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey.
I am Alex. I graduated from Miami University in Ohio, not Florida, in December. So I missed this whole global pandemic issue with classes. I work currently at a firm in downtown Indianapolis called Axis Architecture. So I was in the office for 2 weeks before I start working from home. So I still got a part of this. I'm one of the ones that is still undecided. I applied to Michigan, BAC, Columbia, University of Washington, UT. I got in everywhere and I'm trying to figure out where is the best fit for me. I got to visit Austin in December and I actually had a tour with Amaya. So I got to see, I was sad I couldn't come this weekend for obvious reasons, but I'm excited about Austin and it's probably my top choice.
Great.
Thank you, Alex. Courtney, you had your hand up?
Yeah, hi, I'm Courtney. So my background, I guess, is I'm originally from Houston. I did my undergrad at Texas A&M and graduated in 2015. And I did that in civil engineering, mainly structures. And I worked, and then I ended up getting my master's in structural engineering at MIT, which I graduated from in December 2018, January 2019. And then like for the past year, I've been working at SOM in San Francisco. So I think I've been on like a gradual path to get into architecture, but I've been dragging my feet a bit. Finally ready to get into it. I guess for me, I'm still a little bit undecided too. The biggest pro of UT, I mean, beyond the program itself, is it's in Texas. It's the only school I applied to in Texas, but it's a pretty great pro. And as far as my interests go, I mean, I've already well-established structural engineering as my background. So I think I'll carry that with me, but I'm eager to like kind of branch out into some of the business case, economics case, and somewhat of like how can you get architecture to work with development so that you can create wonderful spaces for people that have economic viability, and how can you preserve vernacular styles so that we don't have this global style washing all over. And I think architecture as a field has pointed well in those directions, so I'm eager to see where else we can go with it.
Great.
Thank you, Courtney. Nolan?
Hey, you guys, can you hear me?
Hey. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, my name is Nolan. I go to Texas A&M University, where I'll be graduating with my degree in environmental design. And I actually see a few of my fellow students here on here right now, so it's good to see y'all. But yeah, I'm currently home in Fort Worth due to what's going on. I've already accepted my admissions to UT Architecture for my master's degree, and I'm very excited about that. During my undergraduate degree, I actually had an internship in Houston at Method Architecture. And there we focused mainly on designing and consulting with breweries, beer breweries, so that was a lot of fun. But I was actually not granted acceptance into my undergraduate degree for UT Architecture, so now this is my chance to really get in there and experience that. So I'm really excited.
Awesome.
Thanks, Nolan. I like the brewery part. James has his hand up. James, can you hear us?
Hey guys, I'm James. I'm an architecture student at Miami of Ohio. I also had a tour with Amaya, which was great. I loved Austin. I'm between a few schools right now. I recognize a few of you guys from UVA, I think. But I am also interested in sustainable design. I've been doing like energy consulting for a few years, and it's been great. And I want to kind of advance my knowledge in that realm. So I'm looking forward to hopefully joining you guys next year.
Thank you, James. Sarah, you have your hand up?
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah. I just received my undergraduate from Texas Tech in December, so I'm now spending the semester interning in Fort Worth. Also, kind of like everybody else, I am debating between a couple schools. So thank you for having the open house. Sorry, my dog keeps looking out the window. So yeah, thank you all so much.
Thank you, Sarah. Anyone else? I don't see any hands up anymore, but if you want to deduce yourself or have any more questions, please let us know.
I'll just quickly answer Paola's question. She asked a question about community work with the School of Architecture. And so, yeah, we have a ton of opportunities, I think, and they really, they're very different. So we have studios that focus on community work, like the PID, Public Interest Design Studios, one of which I mentioned earlier. But we also have a lot of research with communities and a lot of studios that travel to different communities. Since we aren't departmental, we have one of our programs is community and regional planning, and there are classes within there that you can take that focus on, a lot of them focus on Latin America, but also more locally as well, looking at different kind of development models through Austin and how to support local communities. So there's quite a few. It's hard to go into all of them, but if you have any specific interest, let us know and we can connect you with those classes.
Got another hand up from Stephen. Stephen, can you hear us?
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for you guys putting this together. I am from New York. I'm also a carpenter. Just got, our work just got put on hold with all this. I'm just finishing a 3-family passive house. So I do building science, weatherization, woodworking. And yeah, we were like a week away from finishing. So hopefully we'll get back in the next few days and finish that up. Yeah, just really excited to meet all of you. Thank you for putting this together. And I've never been to Austin, so anyone who's from there or knows a lot about it, I would love to be in contact with you and talk to you about all the opportunities there and what's going on. So thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Well, our governor just designated construction as an essential activity, so all the sites are back open, but New York's probably going to take a little longer. I mean, we haven't been hit yet, really, have we?
One thing I'll add real quick is I think Robin set up a Facebook group that everyone should have access to. So it's a really good resource outside of this. If you have questions for each other, it's a private group only for admitted students. So feel free to communicate on there, ask questions, and yeah.
And there are current students in there who can help with questions to students.
And when is the student panel? What time is that, Robin?
It's at 4. So at 4, there will be a
4.
graduate student panel with several students from several disciplines across the school. So if y'all want to talk to some additional current students, you can join that.
And it'll be unfiltered because there won't be any faculty on that call. So
yeah. See if there's any other questions over here we haven't fielded yet. There's a few questions about business school. So yeah, the nice thing about UT, there's so many different departments. There's geology, biology, art, business, computers, engineering. And so we allow 2 of those classes, 2 of your electives to be outside of the School of Architecture. And so a lot of departments allow cross-listing, including the business school. So a lot of people take classes on real estate or marketing or whatever else they're interested in. And we totally support that. Other people who are doing like an MDS or a thesis, if your thesis involves, geology, then you could take a class in that department as well. So there's a lot of different classes that are open to you at the university level. And like a lot of projects, like So the school really wants to increase these multidisciplinary projects. So there's often funding from the university for faculty that then involve students on different projects that are cross-disciplinary. So like, for example, I'm working with the microbiology department on 3D printing microstructures that are very complex, and then they're growing bacteria and E. coli in them to see how different cells might evolve. So it's not just that we apply architecture to buildings, but we also think about these same kind of concepts and themes across the university as well, and apply them in many different ways. So that's something we definitely strive for here, is to create those connections. Dylan has his hand up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just had, you actually just sort of answered one of my questions about interdisciplinary studies, but I had a logistical question, again, just to go over some territory that may have been covered in the initial presentation. I came in a little bit late, but I wanted to see if you could clarify, as far as the summer classes go, is that fully 100% online at this point?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So, it's a university-wide decision. It's
okay.
It's out of our hands. It wasn't made at the school level.
Okay, so there's no need to be in Austin if we're not there already by July. We have a little more time.
Yes.
That's right.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sarah,
I don't know
Heather?
if you were part of that initial part, but also if you have prerequisites that you have to finish, like physics or calculus, you have until the end of summer. So you can start the summer classes and not have finished those yet. That's okay.
Thanks, Sarah. Did you have another question, Sarah?
Yes, I do. So for any courses that we're trying to get waived over, how are we going to show you the exams that we took? I had a couple of universities saying that I needed to prepare kind of a list of academics, or are they just going to look at transcript only?
No, you can send us your syllabi and your coursework. Yep. Robin, can you talk a little bit more about that process, the waiver process?
Sure, and we'll send all of the details when we send everyone's program of work information, but we have an online system called DocuSign, and so for each one that you wanted to be considered, you would fill out your information, upload your exams, syllabi, course descriptions, and then it would just route through a system to the instructor for review and then to Corey. So we will send a lot of details about how to do it and with detailed instructions about what to upload. But that will become with program of work information.
There's two questions in the chat. How big is the cohort? Corey answered that. It's about 40 to 50 students typically, kind of in the mid 40s typically. And fall term starts August. Robin, when does fall term start? End of August. And while you're looking for that, Bo had his hand up and had another question.
Yeah, Corey, I wanted to ask you. So I currently have a job that, if it's possible for me to keep as long as possible to sock away cash, I'd like to do. The online classes that start in July, are those going to be something that I need to be, logged in, can't be doing something else for a period of time, or are they going to be something that I can do at the end of the day? Basically, can I keep my job and not have to worry about that conflicting with my classroom schedule?
Right, yeah. There will be a few times during the day that will be synchronous. So online classes are both synchronous and asynchronous. Asynchronous means you can, reply to a discussion anytime you're at your computer, and people reply at different times. And then there's synchronous, which are everyone's in the same space simultaneously. There will be components of that, like, for example, reviews of work where we all want to be commenting on each other's projects in real time. It won't be like as much as it would be in an in-person class. Sure. So I do think, yeah, you could still probably have your job. Okay. If we were doing the in-person class, it's like every morning, basically 9 to noon. So it's quite a bit. And most of that studio time where you're working. So if you want to do that at night, that's totally fine. There will be an hour or so, and I'll have that schedule a little more closer to the class time because we're developing it now. But Yeah, and then a lot of people do. I mean, I don't really recommend working during the school year when you start taking all your classes, but some people do, and that's okay. I think the minimum required credits is 9. Is that correct, Robin? So,
Yeah.
the typical program is 15 credits a semester, but if you want to take 9 and delay or expand your time here, or take more summer classes, for example, to fill in those gaps, you can do that. And we can work individually on how you want to approach that.
And there's a question about how many hours a week is a TA commitment. If a full-time TA is 20 hours a week, but it really depends on what kind of position it is. If it's, if you're a TA in the computer lab and you're more or less manning the service desk there, then you're going to have 20 hours on the books that are going to be in your calendar, and you're going to be there at the desk. It doesn't mean you can't, write a paper or do some other research while you're sitting there when you're idling. But there, a lot of the other TA positions, if you're a TA for a class, you might, you probably have to attend the lecture portion of it, and then you have to hold a discussion of the lab session, and then there might be grading involved, grading of homework, grading of exams. So you have a little bit more flexibility in your schedule when you want to schedule those 20 hours. But if you have there are some TAs where you have to, obviously, if you're in the wood shop or if you're in the computer lab, you have certain hours that you're going to have to be there that are not, that are not flexible. And, I have a TA for my construction class, and I don't think on average, they probably don't average 20. I mean, you're getting paid for 20 hours, but I don't think they do 20 hours in a normal week. Maybe in a week where you're grading an exam, you might be doing 20 hours. We also have half-time TAs. Those are then 10 hours. And with that, in terms of the benefits, I guess Robin, does it cut everything in half pretty much? Or there's some other?
Approximately, it reduces the salary and the tuition reduction benefit. And then if it's only a 10-hour, then you don't have the in-state tuition piece.
Yeah, which is kind of the big piece that a lot of people like. So that's
and no healthcare if it's 10 hours.
Okay, no healthcare. Adriana had her hand up. Did you have another question?
Yes, I don't know if this is the right place to ask this, but I know my university is giving the option for like their studio classes and stuff like that to have satisfactory and unsatisfactory grades for a lot of the architecture classes, actually for the entire university.
Are you guys accepting those courses at this time because of the whole pandemic, or is it still you must do graded courses?
I mean, whatever is decided by you. I mean, we have the same thing here that students have the option to take any class, pass, fail at this point, and if there are classes that count towards your degree, they'll fully count, and obviously whatever's in your transcript will accept.
All right, thank you.
There's also a question, can you TA outside of the school? Yes. We sometimes, there are other departments. There's the liberal arts school that has a department of design. Or if your expertise is in a different field, yes, you can TA for other units on campus. And usually the benefits are very similar to what you get in the School of Architecture as well. And pace, if you are a TA in engineering, you're probably gonna walk away with a little bit more cash than being a TA in architecture. But overall, it's pretty similar across the board.
All right, well, it looks like we're at 3:30. And I know I want to give people a break before the student panel, because the student panel is really wonderful. And like, as Uli mentioned, we won't be there, so people can really, be very honest with their questions and not worry about us being there. But we really are grateful for you joining us for these first 2 sessions. And if we didn't answer your question, you can email any of us, Alexa, Robin, Uli, myself. We work really as a collective. We're sharing emails, so we'll pass it on if we don't have the answer, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. And again, if you have any concerns, questions, just email us. We're here, and I'll also talk to you on the phone. So if you'd prefer to call, that's totally fine as well. Just let us know.
I just want to say thanks to Amaya and Diego for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
And
thank you
to
both.
everyone for joining us, and to point out, we would have been leaving right now for live music in our courtyard. So come visit Austin so we can show you what our community is like.
The only saving grace is I think we have a thunderstorm to come through in just about a minute, so would have been indoor music.
That's true. All right. Well, thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you
It's
all.
really
Thank
great.
you. Really appreciate your time. Be
Virtually.
safe.